The clock on the dashboard read 2:17 a.m. when Kurt Cobain pulled his brown Dodge van into the fluorescent glow of a Shell station somewhere between Seattle and Olympia. Rain hammered the windshield, typical Pacific Northwest November weather. Kurt had been driving for almost 2 hours, trying to outrun thoughts that followed him no matter how fast he pushed the accelerator. Frances Bean was asleep at Courtney's mother's place. The house in Seattle felt too empty, too full of expectations. So he drove. No destination, just movement. The gas gauge needle trembled near empty. Kurt pulled up to pump number 3, killed the engine, and sat there for a moment watching rain slide down the windows. Through the wet glass, he could see the attendant inside the station's mini-mart, a guy maybe 30 years old, thin, wearing a faded Sonic Youth t-shirt under his shell vest. Kurt stepped out into the rain, pulled his hood up, and started pumping gas. The pump clicked off at $14.50. Kurt walked toward the mini-mart, hands in his cardigan pockets. Inside, the fluorescent lights were too bright. The attendant was leaning against the counter, reading Rolling Stone. He looked up when Kurt entered. "Pump 3, Kurt said quietly, pulling out a 20. The attendant rang it up, his eyes lingering on Kurt's face. "You look like someone." Kurt's stomach tightened. "Just got one of those faces?" "Yeah, maybe." The attendant went back to his magazine. Kurt should have left. But something made him pause near the coffee station. The attendant spoke without looking up from his magazine. "You know what's bullshit?" His voice was casual but had an edge underneath. "These articles about grunge like it's some revolutionary new thing, like Kurt Cobain invented being angry and poor." Kurt's hand froze halfway to the coffee pot. "I mean, I get it," the attendant continued, still reading. "Pretty boy with a guitar writes some catchy songs about teenage angst, and suddenly he's the voice of a generation. Meanwhile, there are actually struggling musicians out there, people who've been playing dive bars for 15 years, people who know what real poverty looks like, what actual depression feels like, and they'll never get a record deal because they don't have the right look or the right connections." Kurt stood very still, his heart beating faster. The attendant still hadn't looked at him. "Kurt Cobain," the attendant said, and the name landed in the empty gas station like a stone in still water. Guy grew up in a small town, sure. But then he gets discovered, gets famous, starts making millions, and he's still writing songs about how hard his life is. Give me a break. The attendant finally looked up, and his eyes met Kurt's. There was recognition there now, clear and unmistakable, and something else. Resentment, bitterness, the particular anger of someone who'd wanted the same thing and never got it. "You know what real struggle is?" the attendant asked. "It's being 32 years old, working night shift at a gas station, still playing guitar 4 hours a day because you can't stop even though you know nothing's ever going to happen. It's watching someone younger than you become everything you wanted to be and knowing you're just as talented, just as dedicated, but you'll never get that chance because life isn't fair and luck matters more than skill." Kurt should have defended himself, should have walked out, should have said something, anything. But he just stood there, holding his change, rain dripping from his hair onto the linoleum floor. "I've been playing guitar since I was 14, the attendant said, his voice low and intense now. 18 years. I've written hundreds of songs, good songs, songs that mean something. I've played every dive bar from here to Portland. I've sent demos to every label that would accept them. And you know what I got? Nothing. Not even a form letter rejection most of the time. Just silence." The attendant's hands were gripping the counter now, knuckles white. "And then I turn on MTV, and there's Kurt Cobain, looking miserable in a mansion, complaining about fame to an interviewer, acting like success is some kind of burden. Do you know how insulting that is? Do you know how it feels to watch someone waste the opportunity you'd kill for?" Kurt's voice, when he finally found it, came out barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" The attendant laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "For what?" For getting lucky? For being in the right place at the right time? For having the face and the hair and the image that labels wanted? For... Kurt stopped, started again. For making you feel like your music doesn't matter. The attendant blinked, some of the anger draining from his face, replaced by confusion. But I didn't make you feel that, Kurt continued, his voice still quiet. You made yourself feel that, because you're measuring your music's worth by whether it made you famous. Easy to say when you're famous. Is it? Kurt moved closer to the counter. His hood fell back, revealing his face fully in the harsh fluorescent light. You think fame validates music? You think commercial success means your songs matter more? It means someone listened, the attendant shot back. It means you mattered enough for people to care. No, Kurt said. It means I got lucky with timing. It means Smells Like Teen Spirit hit radio when radio was looking for something that sounded like that. It means I had the right connections through the Seattle scene. It means a million things that have nothing to do with whether my music is actually good or important or meaningful. Kurt pulled out his wallet, took out the $5 in change he'd just received, and set it on the counter. How much are blank cassette tapes? The attendant stared at him. What? Cassette tapes. The blank ones. How much? $2.50. Kurt pushed the $5 across the counter. Give me two. Confused, the attendant rang up the sale and handed Kurt two blank cassettes in plastic cases. You said you've written hundreds of songs, Kurt said. You said they're good, that they mean something. Yeah. So? So I want to hear them. Kurt set the cassettes back on the counter between them. I'm going to sit in my van for the next 2 hours. It's 2:30 now. That means you've got until your shift ends at 6 to record whatever you want me to hear. Use the boombox I'm guessing you've got in the back. Pick your best songs, the ones you believe in most. The attendant's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I'll wait, Kurt said, and I'll listen to every second. And if you're right, if you're as talented as you say, if your music matters as much as you think it does, then I'll do something about it. Like what? I know people, Kurt said simply. Label people, producer people, people who owe me favors. I can't promise anything, but I can get your tape to people who actually make decisions. The attendant was shaking his head. This is bullshit. You're patronizing me. You feel guilty or something, so you're... I'm giving you the same chance someone gave me, Kurt interrupted. A guy named Buzz Osborne from the Melvins. He believed in my music before anyone else did. He introduced me to people, opened doors. I wouldn't be anywhere without that chance. So I'm giving you one. Kurt turned toward the door, then stopped. But I'm going to tell you something first, and you can decide if you want to take the chance or not. What? Being famous didn't make me happy, Kurt said, his voice carrying a weight that seemed to age him beyond his 26 years. It didn't validate my music or make me feel like I mattered. If anything, it made me doubt everything I'd written, because now I couldn't tell if people liked it because it was good or because I was famous. Fame doesn't solve the question of whether your art matters. It just makes the question louder. The rain was still falling outside, creating a white noise backdrop to the empty gas station. I wake up every morning, Kurt continued, and I have everything you want: money, fame, recognition. And I also wake up every morning wanting to disappear, wanting to go back to when I was nobody, when I could write songs just because I needed to write them, not because millions of people were waiting to judge them, when music was mine, not theirs. He met the attendant's eyes. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't understand your struggle. But you don't understand mine either. And maybe the actual struggle, the real one, isn't about success or failure. It's about making music that matters to you regardless of whether anyone else ever hears it. That's the only thing that lasts. Kurt opened the door. Rain and cold air rushed in. 2 hours, he said. If you want to record something, I'll be in the white van. At pump 3. If you don't, I'll understand that too. The door closed behind him. Through the rain-streaked window, the attendant watched Kurt walk back to his van, climb inside, and turn off the lights. For 5 full minutes, the attendant just stood there, staring at the 2 blank cassettes on the counter. His shift didn't end for another 3.5 hours. The back room did have a boombox. He did have his guitar in his car, because he always had his guitar, because even after 18 years of rejection, he still couldn't imagine a day without it. His hands were shaking when he picked up the cassettes. In the van, Kurt reclined the driver's seat and watched rain run down the windshield. He wasn't sure if the attendant would take the offer, wasn't sure if it mattered. He'd felt that same resentment once, before Nevermind, when he was sleeping on friends' couches, wondering if he'd wasted his 20s chasing something that would never happen. 20 minutes passed. Then Kurt saw lights in the back room turn on. Kurt closed his eyes and waited. At 3:47 a.m., the gas station door opened. The attendant walked through the rain to Kurt's van and knocked on the window. Kurt rolled it down. The attendant handed him a cassette tape. His hands were still shaking. "Just one," he said. "I recorded 4 songs. They're not perfect. The recording quality is shit because I'm using a boombox microphone, but they're the ones that matter most to me." Kurt took the tape. On the label, written in careful handwriting, David Chen, November 1993. "David," Kurt said, reading the name. "Yeah." "I'll listen to the whole thing," Kurt promised, "and I'll make some calls tomorrow." David nodded, then hesitated. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what I said earlier, about you not understanding struggle. That was bullshit. I was just angry." "I know," Kurt said. "I'm angry too, most of the time. At different things, maybe, but I get it." David turned to walk back to the station, then stopped. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you still love it? Making music, I mean. Without all the other stuff, without the fame and the pressure, do you still love the actual act of writing songs?" Kurt thought about it, really thought about it. "Yeah," he said finally. "When I'm alone in my garage at 3 in the morning, just me and my guitar, working on something nobody else will ever hear? Yeah, that's the only time it still feels pure." David smiled, a real smile this time. "Good. Don't lose that." He walked back through the rain to the gas station. Kurt watched him go, then looked down at the cassette in his hands. He didn't start his van, didn't put the tape in the deck, not yet. He just sat there, holding this small object that represented 18 years of someone's hope and refusal to give up. At 6:15 a.m., when David's replacement arrived, Kurt was still there. He'd listened to the tape 3 times. David's songs were raw, unpolished, but they had something, an honesty that reminded Kurt of early Nirvana recordings. Kurt started the van. Before pulling out, he wrote something on a napkin from the glove box, walked back to the station, and left it under the windshield wiper of the car David had pointed out as his. The note said, "Your music matters, not because I said so, but because you made it. I'll call you in 3 days. K." Below that, Kurt had written a phone number, his personal line, the one almost nobody had. Then Kurt Cobain drove back into the rain, heading north toward Seattle, carrying a cassette tape that would change David Chen's life in ways neither of them could predict yet. But that's another story. This story ends here, at a gas station on I-5, where 2 musicians, one famous, one unknown, found something that mattered more than success or failure. The understanding that making music because you have to is the only reason that ever really counts.